Hello world, it's Curtis Potter with Boundless Inspiration. I talked in a recent video about how I had gotten used to doing things well without much energy. It was a blessing and it was a curse, because when I didn't do my due diligence, I didn't do my research, I didn't practice, I could still do all right. So it was great because when I wasn't giving my all, hey, turned out all right. But deep down, I knew that I also wasn't achieving the level that I could have if I would have, right? And so I had this question that was asked I was coming and I had some problems. I was talking to someone about it, and I was like, man, I've tried everything. And they said, but did you try everything? Did you try everything? And I was like, I've tried a lot, but did I try everything? And they said, now what about you've tried everything? What does your spreadsheet say? Does your spreadsheet say that you tried everything? And I was like, what spreadsheet, right? Well, how did you try everything if you haven't even documented all of what you've tried? That right there will likely tell you if you haven't put all of the problems, all of the solutions, all of the outcomes, you definitely didn't put 100% into it, and you definitely didn't try everything. So when I think about it, I'm like, okay, so what isn't working? Is it relationships? Is it finances? Is it a job? Is it, whatever it is, if you're sitting here listening to this and you're saying something that I'm doing is not working, I ask you, have you tried everything? And everything that you've tried, have you put 100% into? If your finances are a wreck, have you read at least the top 10 financial books from the most successful people who are doing great financially? Like, don't read everything. I'm not saying you got to read every single book, because some people have written books and they were not the highest success rating. So you might pick up a book on finances, come to find out that person who wrote that book is now broke again, struggling financially. You might not want to read that book, so I'm not telling you to read every book. But if you're complaining about and not happy about your finances, if you haven't at least read 10 of the top books on finances, you haven't tried everything. Have you read the top 10, 20 books on investing? Well, there might be a reason why your finances are a wreck. Is your relationship a wreck? Or even not just necessarily a wreck, but it's not exactly what you want it to be. If you are wanting to improve any area of your life, have you tried everything? And see, when I look back at my life and the places that I was lacking, struggling, not getting the outcomes that I wanted, it was because I wasn't even putting close to my everything into it. Well, duh, right? How many times do I smack myself in the head and say, duh, Curtis? There's a reason why you're not boundless, because you're not putting your all into it. You're not doing everything. And that's why when you see people who have made it successful in any form or fashion, whether it's a business, finances, relationships, whatever it may be, when you see somebody that you look up to and you're like, man, they've made it, go ask them how many times they failed. Like Thomas Edison said, he didn't find 1,000 ways that electricity failed. He just found 1,000 ways that didn't work. And he knew, he gave everything. He had faith that I am going to try everything until it works. Now we have electricity. Look at these lights. Look at this phone that I'm recording this on, the microphones that are attached, the programs, those people put everything into creating a system. Now, when you see systems that are made and then they fail, it's because they don't have a plan B of, okay, now this is struggling. We have competition, other people that are creating, it goes from Facebook to, or I guess it goes back to MySpace and all those, right? And they eventually failed because they wasn't willing to adjust. They wasn't willing to try everything, and they didn't put their all into it. So even I go back to Blockbuster. That was one of my childhood memories. Some of you listening may not even know what Blockbuster is, where you would just go and pick out DVDs. Well, then Redbox came in and they took over and they put them out of business. Blockbuster was so set on brick and mortar that they didn't create a blue box. They didn't try everything. And because of that mindset, they're no longer in business. I think there's actually one store, I don't know if it's still, but I know there was a story about the one Blockbuster store that's still in business. But see, then what happened? Where do you see those red boxes anymore? They're few far in between. Maybe at Walmart's, I believe, but they used to have McDonald's. They're not there no more. But why was that? Because next thing you know, here comes Netflix. Here comes Hulu. Here comes Disney Plus. All of these different platforms. So if Blockbuster would have had that mentality where now they moved into Blue Box, took all those DVDs that was already at their fingertips, where all they had to do was create a box, maybe trademarking or whatever they couldn't. Maybe they created a bubble where you could get your DVDs. They already had the collection, way more than Redbox. Then they could have stayed ahead of the game. My business that I had, it was called The Trend CBD. And the whole reason why I called it The Trend was because in life, you either have to stay with the trend or ahead of the trend, or at least right behind the trend and like holding on to the coattails so that you can stay up to date. And if your relationship's not working, okay, we're in a different time. What is the relationship teachings for our time? How can I give everything into whatever I'm doing? So I just ask you, are you struggling in any way? Is your life not exactly how you want it to be in any way? And have you really tried everything? Have you put a spreadsheet together for your relationships, for your finances, for your careers, your non-for-profits, how you're showing up as a friend, how you're showing up as a parent, how you're showing up as a kid? Have you tried everything? Because that will tell you really how bad you want it. Today, I just invite you, if there's any areas of your life that are struggling and not looking like you want it to, create a spreadsheet. Ask yourself more unique questions. What can I do better to improve it? Maybe a relationship. Hey, it may be, you know what? I'm not going to watch football on Sunday with the bros. It may be I'm not going to go to the strip clubs. It may be I'm going to take out some of my beer money and go buy flowers for my wife and bring her home some flowers. It may be I'm going to step into marriage counseling because that's how much it matters to me to not only save my relationship, but make my relationship amazing. We're on this earth only one time. Why live life any other way than boundless? It's an everyday journey. It's unlimited. It's beautiful. And your life will become beautiful the moment you realize, you know what? I haven't tried everything. But you know what? All I can think about is my kids. I'm like, I would give anything for my kiddos, right? And if you're a parent, I'm sure you can relate. Like, I would give anything to be there for my kids and help my kids and so forth. But see, what I wasn't realizing was all those years that I was refusing to walk into counseling because I had this bad story about going into counseling and getting some constructive criticism about all the things that I was doing wrong. that was something that prevented the growth of my marriage that ended up failing. And now I realize that part of me not giving everything into a relationship is what actually ended up being part of what caused the relationship to fail. And it had that trickle effect. So in all reality, if I would have gave everything to my precious kiddos, part of that would have been the other parts, the other branches to the tree of, okay, I've got to give everything into my relationship with my spouse. I've got to give everything into my finances instead of making excuses or being in a victim mentality. I've got to give everything into learning how to invest. I've got to give everything into learning how to be the best version of myself. I've got to give everything into my health, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's not just about, hey, I'm going to show up to my kiddos and be everything to them. Like, I'll just not argue with them and let them have whatever they want. Even that, you're trying to be their best friend, but that's not giving everything, because they need that guidance. They need to understand that their decisions have consequences and how to protect themselves. And then once they get to a certain age of protecting themselves, hey, don't talk to strangers. But then you got to go out into the world and meet strangers, and giving them everything is teaching them how to give trust, give love, give forgiveness, and meet people and communicate with people, be their authentic self instead of worrying about everybody wants you to do, being your authentic self and showing up. So giving everything is so vast. But whenever you take the time to understand all the pieces to the puzzles, all the branches to the tree, all the different ways that you can improve and become a better version of yourself every day, even giving yourself grace on those days where you don't do so well, giving other people grace when they don't live up to your expectations, lowering your expectations in life because they're predestined resentments, then you start to realize, I gave everything. And everything else I can't control, I control what I can control, and I give the rest away. Today, I just invite you, ask yourself some unique questions. Be real with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror to say, am I giving everything? And take that ownership of why our lives are exactly the way they are. If you have any tips on maybe a place where you want to be vulnerable enough to tell us where you wasn't doing everything and now you are, and how it greatly impacted your life, we'd love to hear it. For our viewers, they'd love to hear the stories, success stories based on success. You can put some places or, in the comment section of where it didn't work. Because, hey, I think knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. Focusing on the solution and what to do may be more important, because we're all on this journey together of becoming boundless. So you know the drill. Like, share, comment, tag, and be boundless.